Welcome to Why Your Business is Invisible Online, the podcast that connects businesses online with the people they want to serve. Joining me are my two co-hosts, and here they are.
I'm Jim Filatico. When I'm not helping my clients grow their businesses online, you can find me traveling with friends and family.
Hi, I'm Kelly Biggs, and I'm the AT alien of the group. I love hanging with friends and family, and when I'm not doing that, you can find me on Peloton. I've clocked over 2,000 rides so far.
And I'm your host, John Manatas from Oakville, Ontario, Canada, with my guitar in hand, my Wi-Fi on life support, but always in tune with my clients. Not only for ourselves, but for our audience to really go through an acronym that can help us understand all the aspects of what it takes to be found on the internet. And acronyms are great. I don't even know how many times I used acronyms, mnemonic devices in school to get through when there was tons of detail and facts. I couldn't have survived without these, mnemonic devices in school, and they're still good today. So FOUND, found. Let's go through it. Let's come up with what each of those can stand for, and go back to them every time we need to, as we dive into the details of what it takes to be found, what it takes for a business to be found online. FOUND. Let's start with F. Fully optimized would be F. O. Original content and context is critical. U. Understanding the audience. N is for nurture, and D is for data-driven strategy. So let's take some time and go through F, fully optimized websites, what they're all about. Like what we've talked about websites, but let's go a little deeper into what it takes in this world of being fully optimized to help businesses be found online.
Jim, I know you have a lot of clients that fall into this, so I'm curious to hear if you wanted to share one first.
Sure. I've got home services, I've got med spas, I've got medical related things, and it's one example. Nice looking website. It's pretty. It's got some nice information in it. But when you do the technical deep dive, it has no backbone. It doesn't have that framework that Google uses to search. And I think that's one thing that a lot of our business owners don't understand. And this person I spoke with doesn't really completely understand it, because they built their own website. They go on to a free version of something, and it walks them through, picking the font and adding your content and adding some pictures and all those things. But if Google can't find you, you did it all for nothing. And it's sad to say, and it's hard to say that to somebody, because especially if they built it themselves, they put their blood, sweat, and tears in this, and it's frustrating. But that being said, when you don't have the elements that are required for Google, the Google bots or the robots, as we say, to be able to find it, you won't be found.
Yeah,
and
that works, by the way, Jim. What you just said works. As soon as I tell them it's a robot that goes into the guts of the underlying website, not the pretty things that you just talked about.
It can't even see the pictures. It can't even see.
Right, exactly. Well, it does. It sees JPEG 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right.
What the hell it is, we don't know. But
they don't know, which is why you need to name your JPEGs as what they are.
You got to name your picture. Name the picture. As soon as I tell them that it's a robot, then they get it. They say, I understand now. So it's nothing they can see, nothing that my clients can see with their eyes. I said, you got it. Now you understand. And that's what we have to do for you. Sorry, Jim, I interrupted. Go for it. No,
that's right. And when you say it's not like someone is just ahead of you typing and searching and looking at websites. It's all automated, and that's what it does. So it's these robots that go and they look for those exact words that match, whether it's a whole page of a website. So if you call it a home page, that's great. But if you call your services pages services, what kind of services?
Right.
And when you have multiple pages and you call them all services, then now you've got multiple pages calling the same thing. It confuses the hell out of Google.
Oh, yes.
And so making sure that those things are correct, making sure that the content within the website, that has titles that are appropriate to what you're talking about, that, like we just talked about, the images that you name the images and you put the alt tags in the images that explains what the image is all about, because Google will actually look for that.
Yep.
And they'll actually serve up a picture.
Yeah.
As a part of the search, or a video as a part of the search. And not recently, but in the recent past, it'll actually serve up the portion of the video you're actually looking for.
Right.
If people like it.
Yeah.
So that's what's important, is making sure it's optimized for whatever search engine that you're using, whether it's Google or AI or whatever it is, making sure that having that information, all that framework in there is critical for the search engine to be found. So then now you have to go back and you basically have to tune up the website. You have to make sure that all that information is in there. So that's traditionally a part of search engine optimization, is that first month of work is tuning up the website to make sure that when now you do start updating, in this case, it's healing and different things with sound and with exercise and different things, yoga and different things for this particular woman. Those will actually show up because the backbone of the website is they're explaining the content that she's provided,
right,
and pointing it to it so it can be found.
Your clients, go ahead, Cal.
Now, I was going to ask a little bit more about this particular client. I'm curious, how long had she been in business? How long ago had she put up her website? I'm just curious about this.
I think the website's 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
And she's going from kind of a local presence to more. She wants to be more regional. Many times, what she used to do is more face to face.
Yep.
And now she does more of a Zoom or a phone call.
Okay.
And so that way she can expand her territory, so to speak, and get more business. But she's not being found because the information is not there.
Have you found, I'm just curious, because she wants to be found in a more regional way, does that causing you to go in and create like location pages, like for some of the
service area pages and location pages? So what she's doing now is she's realizing that she's not getting those phone calls from far away, right, or farther away.
Right.
And so, and she hasn't done anything for SEO yet.
Okay.
And actually, I'm working with a med spa that she actually gave her my name, which was kind of cool,
nice.
Right? I got a referral, yeah. So that's going to be something that we're going to talk about. We have a meeting actually later on today to talk about what we need to do to expand, to kind of set up the framework and fix, give her website a tune-up. And then we're going to talk about what we have to do kind of on page, the information that we provide that lets Google know what she does and where she does it, basically. I mean, it's that simple.
And where she does it. So, So then that reminds, the question is really about full optimization, right? That's the F is found. And so when you're thinking about fully optimized, I do think a lot of times people go straight to search engine optimization, but that's not the only thing that we're talking about. When I have had almost every person, and we'll get to this a little bit later on, will tell you that, I can write my own blogs, and when we talk about content, we'll talk about it, but it's important to bring in here. Yeah, I agree. You can write your own blogs, but guess what? Your blogs have to be optimized.
Your
blogs have to be optimized. You have to have titles. You have to have meta tags. You have to have only one heading, H1. Like these are things that you shouldn't be concerned about, but somebody sure better be when you write your content, right? And so Google, think about it. The back in the day when they called it the World Wide Web, because spiders were crawling it. Now we call them bots, right? Were crawling your website, and they needed to have a certain amount of structure, which has still remained to this day. And so they're looking to see if your content even the content is written in a certain type of structure. So I had a client who she loved writing. I'll write my own stuff. I'm good. I'll write it. And God bless her. She's super talented. And yes, she could, but her blogs were like 100, 200 words. Google feels like then you're not the expert on that, right? Unless it's a part of a hub and spoke, but we won't get into that. That's another topic for another day.
For another day, yeah.
For another day. But Google is looking for content, and generally speaking, to even know how much you should be doing a search on, okay, well, what other blogs out there around this topic? Because I doubt, unless you're some research scientist, that this was not the case with her. She wasn't a research scientist, but she had an interesting point of view on certain topics. But then in order to show up in Google, so we started working with her. And what I ended up doing was something kind of cool. It's like I would go out and research what questions are people asking for her business, right? So I would go do the Google search. Like I know what she does. I just type it in, and then I would come back and we'd have a Zoom call. Right. And we say, okay, and I just turn on my recorder so then I don't have to remember every single thing that she said.
The
right?
notes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then I take the full transcripts, and then that becomes the content. Right. And so then I take that content, answering questions or however we do, that's foundational. It's unique to her because it was 100% her voice. And then we turn that into a fully optimize. And let me tell you, it was so amazing because what happened was from that, like we happened to be in the same BNI. And one day she was like, Google this topic. I'm number one. Like
organic,
all happy,
too.
right? Right. And so when you start to do that, it's not just about doing it for the algorithm in anywhere you're doing it. It's not just about, I didn't say it's not about.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you want to be found, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, if you want to be read.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Right. But it's also, but you're doing that because you want people to see, to your point, Jim, the audience that she wanted to see, she wanted to do that. And I think that's the same for other platforms, that it's important to talk about being optimized. How are you optimized for LinkedIn?
Well,
Number one, right? Because LinkedIn, you can't have the same number of hashtags that you can in Instagram or Facebook, and it's a different strategy. In Instagram, are your videos, you're posting videos, but are they optimized to get the right number of eyes on them? And so when I say optimize, one, we talked about the importance of finding your persona, but then, and this is why that then becomes important, because depending on who your persona is, you write the content for the place that they visit the most on social media. And then you just use the same content and you post it to the rest of them, but you don't optimize. You cannot, most businesses, I'm not saying all, most businesses don't have a budget to optimize them to every social media platform. But you do want to pick and make sure that where your audience is, you're optimizing to that. Exactly.
But so that's part of the process now. It's like, because we're Google's still number one, but as we've discussed in the past, social media searches are critical. And so you're going to post to as many of the social platforms where your audience is going. But now, which we've discovered recently, you also now have to do a search on AI platforms to find out, do you come up? Like, do they even know who you are?
Right.
And it's not just, okay, it's probably ChatGPT for sure, but it's not just ChatGPT anymore. Now you have Perplexity. Do you come up in Perplexity?
Right.
Are you coming up in the leading AI chat or search engines, and that's going to be an ongoing challenge. Both both. It's not just Google anymore. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's Google, it's social, it's chat, and you want to be found in as many places as possible where to your point, Kelly, where that your target persona is going to those places.
And even SGE now, because of
SGE, good point.
And they came out with it and then they slowed it down. And SGE is search generative experience. So Google has that where their AI is producing the answers up above ads and up above the organic search for the queries you have, the questions you have. So they're going back and forth with it, but nonetheless, that's a different experience that we're used to too.
Yeah.
And so you have to try to optimize for that.
Isn't it called like a zero click or something like this, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. SGE was, I can't remember what it was called before SGE, but it was SGE. Now it's SGE.
So the job of being found now has gotten a lot tougher and a lot more complex, which is fine. Keeps us on our toes. I know I've had issues with having discussions with clients regarding speed and how fast your website comes up.
That's exactly right.
And I'm sure you guys have too. Like I've had clients where we've actually fixed it. So in other words, we got their speed up to being like 90%. Which is, 80, 90%, both on mobile and on their desktop. So their website's lightning fast. It comes up right away, which is a big deal. Google calls it their core web vitals, but it's a big deal for Google that you're quick. But over time, because you're constantly adding things to that website, you could be adding a lot of video. That can slow it down again. So you have to go back in again. And then I have to go back to my clients and say, well, it's going to take a few more hours. It's going to cost more money to get you back up to where you need to be because we're not 90% anymore. We're down to like 50% or 60%. So it's a ongoing conversation. So that's another thing we got to keep our eye on. Otherwise Google isn't going to favor us.
We talked extensively about that when we covered in an episode before when we talked about having a good website. So maybe the audience might want to go and look for that in that website.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the second letter in the acronym: original content and context, and what that's really all about in terms of how original content helps you get found, and what happens when it's not original. In other words, if you're just regurgitating everything else that's out there in the internet, so and how much Google really hates that.
When Chat came out, all of a sudden everybody is an author, and if everybody's an author, nobody's an author. Yep. Right? I didn't, and that didn't come from me originally, but I can't give credit because I'm poor at remembering names. But somebody else did. But
I'd like to see the curve as far as how many blogs came out, like before Chat versus now.
Yeah. And do you remember? And so what a lot of people did was fire their content writers. God bless them. They were probably the first ones to go. They did. But as good as they get, and they have gotten better, they really have. For ideation, for, just brainstorm, you're stuck at a wall, you got to write some blogs, you don't know what to do. They're great at that. But if you soup to nuts, I don't care how much it knows your voice, write something in AI, you're going to hear it. And by the way, John, I would love for you to talk about, because I know you have a lawyer who their content is always so spot on with original content. It's not the typical lawyer stuff. So could you tell us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us about them?
And I really believe that's the primary. Once we fix their website and fully optimized it, the primary reason that's allowed them to sustain their first page excellence on quite a few keywords is because their blogs are always so unique. And so they did the right thing. They don't have me writing them. They have a firm that specializes in legal content. And this firm spent the time with my lawyers understood their business, understood exactly the areas, all the personal injury areas that they tend to market more so than others, because there's quite a few areas under personal injury. They pick the ones that my clients are specialists at, more on the disability type of insurance and legal issues that arise with disabilities. They got to know them, and now they do their digging in terms of what are the latest things that are going on in those spaces, whether it's a slip and fall, whether it's a car accident, whether it's a cycling accident. They're going into the latest news, the latest court cases, the latest precedents that are being set. And they pull the actual legal transcripts, and they're part of the blog. So for anybody, for anybody that's a lawyer or in the field that wants to dive deeper, it's available to them. For the common layperson, the actual blog is great on its own. But we've talked about the importance of optimizing the actual blog post and even the photos. And I spend a lot of time finding like the ideal photo for them and then labeling the photo accordingly so that it's optimized. So the robot can understand that this article and this photo are perfect for each other. And they've been doing really well ever since. They have more than enough business as a result of being found that often. And I was proud to say recently, they're hiring. They had too much. Yeah, they have too much business. They had to actually hire another person just recently. And oddly enough, he's a pro at podcasting too. He has a sports podcast, so nice. on the side. But I'm hoping they actually want to create their own podcast eventually, because I think it would be another method to help them get found, to help them build their authority in the space in the region they want to be in, because they don't want to be in the big metropolitan Toronto area. They like Oakville and surrounding area. And that's plenty for them, and because they're not a big firm, so it works.
Also, think about original content. There's a couple of things that come into play. One, I just want to say original content. One thing is important is for your website, even for your social media posts. People want to see you. Mm-hmm. People want to see you. Mm-hmm. People want to see you. Mm-hmm. They do not want to see the stock photos all the time. They don't. They want to see you. So that's all I'll say about that. But going back to original content, I had a client, actually, I'm working with a client right now, amazing client, actually. They just do the most special things. They work with special needs individuals. As they turn adults, a lot of people kind of forget about special needs kids. Mm-hmm. And they have a place where if you're a provider for them, you can bring them and they can kind of normalize, right? With people like them, they take them out. When we worked with them, we told their story, right? So it's you go and you see. We don't use stock images. We use the images of the people. Obviously, we got permission of the what we call the heroes of their website, and those are the people that they're caring for, right?
That's
so
great.
They came back to us because they've expanded to beyond that. From an original content perspective, we work with somebody who's great at telling the brand story, right? And so what that entails is really sitting down with somebody who can ask the right questions of my client and can say, okay, here's the fabric of who you are. Here's the controlling idea. Here's what people who are going to you are struggling with. Here's what they're trying to solve. And here's the messages that we're going to use. Foundational. Now, everybody that their company understands their culture, how they speak, what words they say, what words they don't, which is more important,
critical,
right? Yeah. And then even for their board, like this is, they're growing like phenomenally. And so the importance of saying, what we did 2 years ago probably isn't going to work now, right? Because because the important piece of this is like Jim, where you were saying before when we were talking about getting fully optimized, is that something shifted in our business, right? So now that something has shifted, is the messaging that we have out there right? Mm-hmm. And so for them, the answer is no. So I'm really excited to go on this journey with them and to be able to, when you go to their front page, like what is their one-liner going to be? Mm-hmm. What is their, and then, and I think when you can start foundationally with that, not this whole, I don't know, when you do that outside of having a professional write and give you the context and give you things like controlling idea and just the right messaging, like that's foundational. And so now whomever you, it's not the most inexpensive thing that we do by any stretch of the imagination, but it's going to save you so much time and money later that it's worth that investment. And once we do this for people, we started to see that even when we worked with that medical device company, right? Where you just get into, but when I think about that, we had to really think about, well, hold on, what do your people using your service want to see? Like they were you remember, they were very specific about they didn't want to show sad women.
Right.
Remember?
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So to me, that the people who care about their messaging and the people who care about their content are always going to win. Always.
Yeah. A real quick story on, and this is for social posts. So I have a home services company that I work with, and I do their social media. And it turns out they do it as well, when they have a win or they're doing something. And so I hound them all the time for more pictures of their before and after jobs and, whatever's going on. And I'll be damned if their posts, when they post a true, real picture of a customer smiling and shaking hands or whatever, or whatever they're doing, they always outshine me as far as my posts, when I do a stock image of a, whatever.
Right.
And but it happens, and it's, it's proven every month when they post things that are local and has that local flavor and has their tech with a picture, within the picture, when you show a human, that always helps, right? So you show a tech and the happy homeowner, or just the text, smiling or whatever, it always outperforms the stock image with the same message or the same similar message, right? So that's something that it's humbling, but it's one of those things where you learn that if you're authentic and you're sharing, it's kind of like, you're almost eavesdropping on what just happened, as opposed to trying to, scream, buy from me, this is an advertisement, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like that the next person that sees that post is like, well, I want that feeling when I have something done to my house. I don't want to feel bad about it. I want to feel good about it. And so that's definitely something I've learned, where it's really critical to be as genuine and get genuine images and show the local community stuff going on, because that's what people bond with, I guess.
Especially if there's no name recognition, right? So we're talking about original content. There's no name recognition per se, then I probably have made a conscious choice that I don't want to play with the big boys. I've probably made that. So I'm just thinking about, like, if I'm doing...
Or I did not have the budget for it to play
they
it.
might think that's right. So I'm just thinking about, like, I work a lot with accountants, right? And so my accountants, they don't even want to compete with the people who want to go to H&R Block or TurboTax.
Right.
That's not their people, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Different persona.
Yeah. And so that's great. Big boy, you go spend the dollars and you
That's
come
fine.
up first on Google and you do that. But if I tell them who I am, it's interesting. I don't know if we talked about this before, but what is typically the number 2 page? We know that most people first go to people's home pages first.
Yes.
And what's typically the number 2 page?
Well, I can tell you what I'm finding. I don't know if this is the right answer, but the About Us page is huge.
100%.
Absolutely.
Huge.
Yeah.
100%. Why? If we can think more through that, why do you think that is, John?
I think depending on the generation, I think the younger generation, Gen Z, maybe just a lot of people are younger than me. So, but people in their 20s and 30s, I find they want to know about the company, like the values of the company they're about to do business with, and they want to understand. And the only place you're going to typically find that, you'll find a little bit, of course, on the homepage, but where you can dive into it and get some detail is on their About Us page, and you really get to understand. And to your points, guys, seeing pictures of the real people who work there with the smiles on their faces and why they're smiling. That's the only place you're going to get it. And so, I spend a lot of time whenever I have a website build assignment on the About Us page, a lot of time, photography and the words and how they're crafted, all that stuff. I'd love to hear some of your stories on that front, because I think it's going to become even bigger, because AI will allow people who are building websites and creating content to optimize that stuff for every HVAC company or every company that's, a restaurant and whatnot. Yeah, it'll be a little bit specific for each of them to some degree, but a lot of it's going to become similar. And so the only thing that begins to differentiate you is the stuff you're going to put on that About Us page. Anyway, I'll stop there. I hand it over to you guys. I'd love to hear some of your About Us page stories.
It's interesting that we're talking about this, because one of the things that when I was going back to my company, this
health and wellness type of
okay, great. This health and wellness company that I was just talking about. One of the things that the content writers pushed upon us was, I also want you guys to get an experiential photographer. And I was like, I didn't want to say I never heard of that. What is it? And I think I have the title right. But basically, this is a photographer that does not just come out to take the typical headshot photos. They spend like a day with you when you're out about doing business. So similar, Jim, to you, when the home services guy is out doing a job, he's just there in the background, kind of like a day in the life, he or she photographer, and taking those interactions so now people can see, because some services people just have to see and feel. To your point. And so I thought that was, again, more to come. I'll tell you how it goes in the future, but I'm pretty excited about just that whole thought of this is beyond just a typical website, right? It has to come alive.
Agree. You just reminded me of something. I was on the internet just yesterday, because you guys know I love music, and so when I was like in grade 6, when I first picked up a guitar, the first song everybody learns on the guitar is what they think is at that time "Smoke on the Water," because it's only like a few notes, and they think they've nailed it. They don't know how complex that song is, but it's famous for every band in the rock genre has played "Smoke on the Water." And so online, just the other day, I was just doing general searches. So they did a video of all these famous bands, Aerosmith, Black Sabbath, a whole bunch of bands in rock, basically, and they were recording "Smoke on the Water" from their perspective. And to anybody who loves music, that was intriguing. Like, how would they approach that song? Because it is the most popular first song that everybody learns. And so where I'm going with this was, it had massive viewership, because it was covered in what Kelly just said, experiential photography and experiential video, all sort of glued together to make it interesting. And the amount of hits this particular video got was huge, millions. People wanted to see that. And so, yeah, I can relate. Just even personally, if it's experiential, I'm going to be glued to it. There's no question.
So as a correction,
Mm-hmm.
he actually used the term lifestyle photographer.
Or lifestyle. Okay, still.
That makes sense.
Yeah, same thing.
But I'm just I think it's fine. I can come back with the correction. It's fine. I can be wrong. I'm okay.
Today we are starting with the letter U in Found, and that's for understanding the audience. That's all about conducting thorough audience research to identify audience demographics, interests, online behavior, and then that allows you to tailor your content and your market strategies accordingly and effectively, and developing buyer personas that we talked about yesterday too, to guide content creation, ensuring your message resonates with the specific needs and motivations of your audience. So I think this is one of the most important ones, period. It's your compass, right? Let's face it. If you don't have a compass with your target persona, you're going nowhere. You're just, it's like in golf when you're at the tee and you have to you're looking at the winds and you throw the grass up in the air just to see which way the wind's blowing. Same with target personas. If you don't have that nailed down, and trust me, I've done it before, where I just dove in immediately, got some good general direction on where I should go, and then found out quite quickly that I better redefine the target a lot better than this, because the results just aren't there. They're just generic results. You're not getting a deep dive. So it was early on. I believe it was when I was working with my pharma company. Great company. They work in a very niche environment, and I believe this is why it was the wrong thing to do. When you're in a niche environment. So this pharmaceutical company is focused on becoming the sales department for smaller pharmaceutical manufacturers who don't have their own sales force. So they outsource their sales to specialists like the company I was representing. Anyway, I was so excited to work with this company that I just wanted to get going. And instead of taking the time to really, interview them, and they were anxious too, because they wanted to get moving, they wanted to see results and so forth. But that's not the right way to go. And I didn't dive deep, and I just started, generally understanding who their target customers were. They did tell me that they didn't just want to be local in and around Ontario. They wanted to be national. And so I had that understanding, but that was about it. I didn't understand the behaviors and characteristics that, we have the ability to really target with our content and so forth. That came later. And so, yeah, the lesson learned for me was they wanted to be found, and of course, over time, they wanted leads. But because there's such a niche type of business, I had to really take the time to understand what type of blogs and posts and content on their website would their customers really appreciate. And I quickly found out that generic posts are useless with this audience. For example, one of the more recent ones I did was about the AI tools that are now available out there in the pharmaceutical industry that allows people in sales to measure all kinds of things way more effectively and measure results and so forth. And that was something, again, that I didn't have a clue about because I was too high level. I was at 30,000 feet instead of being at 2 feet. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's a blessing and a curse, I think, with that. Like having somebody that's niche is almost a godsend for us, right? Because they really do understand specifically who they're going after. And so then once you figure that out,
Yeah, the posts were great after that. Once we started talking about some of the deeper concerns their customers had, it was easier to look through the internet to probe and find very specific posts that would resonate. And then, and you have to go through a lot of the periodicals and magazines that are important to their industry to see what is the latest what are the latest issues that are being discussed by the senior people in their industry, and what are the solutions that are being put out there as well. And then that's the kind of posts they want to see. And the phenomenal thing that I would recommend for everybody is they wanted to contribute as well. So for every blog post we did, the owners would actually give a commentary on their thoughts on that post and the issues and so forth. So that even added even more value to every single post. So I would recommend that for everybody. If the owners are willing to do it, getting their own little commentary added to a blog post is highly value added, especially for niche industries. What
was the clue from you? Like you said, what was the trigger to make you know, of like what clued you in?
Oh, we weren't moving the needle on the SEO results.
That'll do it.
Because again, they were new to it, so they weren't on page one regardless to begin with. But as we know, it takes time, and I want to at least move from page 3 to page 2, and then eventually we'll get to page 1. Well, things weren't moving. And so the first thing that you think about is, okay, obviously then the things we're posting are too general. They're high level and interesting for somebody who's looking for general information, but most of their clients, they already understand the general. They want to know what are the specific issues and what are the contradictory points that are out there. Like if somebody's saying this, somebody's saying something completely the opposite. And maybe my clients have a position somewhere in the middle that is value added. And so I need to present that on their website in order to move the needle and get their SEO. But I was able to get them to page 1 on quite a few of their keywords, but it took about a year to make that move. But it didn't move at all until I changed strategy. How about you guys?
I have 2 of them, and they're both kind of surrounding elderly care. So one of them was an attorney that did wills and trusts and those kind of things. And his website, the old website he had, was pretty abandoned, and it was very generic. And with talking with him and doing the research, and I think people know this, but if you think about it, when you're doing elderly care stuff, you're not really speaking to or writing about or writing to that elderly person. You're traditionally writing to that person's daughter.
Absolutely.
Not son, but daughter.
Right.
So then you kind of cater everything you're talking about. You're writing about the fears, the frequently asked questions, all those things, the emotions to that persona, which is that daughter. And then when you start talking about social media and those kind of things, that's who you're trying, that's the audience you want to be in front of. Right. And so that's what we did. We wrote content to that. We wrote blogs to that to make sure that we were kind of emotionally tying with that persona, that daughter, that would then be the person that brings that elderly person in for, update a will or, change things, whatever. And the other example I have is very similar, person that was in elderly medical care, like Medicare help, doing the extra stuff on Medicare and signing people up for that, determining, based on their prescriptions and all that kind of stuff. And again, it was the same kind of situation where it was a fairly generic website. They were writing, again, to the elderly person. But in a lot of cases, there's always somebody sitting next to that person when you have that meeting. And it's usually, the son or daughter. And so again, we wrote the content, we made it more, we didn't have to have the font huge, you know what I mean? Like the Reader's Digest, big font size kind of thing, and which I need now. But but we made sure that we were answering those questions again that the adult son or daughter would have that could then explain to their mom or dad. So in both cases, and it wasn't like it was this big aha moment with the people because they had been dealing with him for for so long. But to point out that their old websites really weren't addressing it, then, as you start to add the content and stuff, we added content and stuff, it made a lot more sense to them why we were doing what we were doing. And then when you talk about social media and even emails and those kind of things, you want to make sure that you're doing that. And that's what we did. And it turned them around as far as, in both cases, it turned them around. And they're in smaller towns, but they grew and their ranking grew significantly based on that. So yeah, it's been a couple of success stories.
Cool. What were some of the specific things that like a daughter who's helping their mom or father who are elderly? What were some of the specific things you found when you targeted when you found out what they were and you started targeting them? What were some of the things that made the bigger difference in terms of the SEO results?
I think a lot of it was explaining the expectations that they would have and understanding what they would have, because it's a different perspective. It's like, okay, how can I take care of them and make sure that they keep their dignity? How can I, you don't want to treat them poorly. You know what I mean? You don't want to treat them like they don't understand what's going on. But at the same time, they're going to have different concerns and they want to make sure that they're not financially hurt. They want to make sure that, like if you think about a son or a daughter, when you're dealing with the will, they want to make sure that they understand what their true desires are of their mom or dad, and make sure, because they may be the person that has to deal with the will, they want to understand it completely and make sure that what they're saying verbally is actually what is written. And so that was a lot of it, was just that understanding and the differentiation between the person that was going to actually have to deal with it later on.
How about you, Kel?
Same as you, John. I would say when I started out, I was just like, buyer persona, tell me who you sell to. They fill out a page. And so, but the more you get into it, the more you realize, the more you can learn about who their servants, what's top of their mind. All of those things is going to make the content much richer. I remember discovering Answer to Public, which is great. That's a tool that you can go in, and the beauty of it helps you to target more about longer tail keywords. So once you do that buyer persona, you can go in and see what people are actually asking, right? So I'll give you an example of, we've talked about COVID a lot through this, because that's basically when we all began.
That's true.
But with COVID, good, bad, or indifferent, funeral homes started to thrive, right? And so, but if you were a funeral home and you wanted to be found online, it's tricky. It's really tricky, right? And so, I would say probably in the past, what would happen is, it's word of mouth. I want this person to be this person, and during that time, and probably now, because people move around so much more, there's more opportunity, I think, for funeral homes if they can understand who they're trying to reach. And so I remember working with a funeral home where land is finite. It's something we don't think about. And so we had a conversation of, I'm trying to show that there are different options when it comes to funeral arrangements for people who maybe not have the money to care for. And so that, like, understanding, like, this is the new persona. Right? So how do we, and at that point, it could have been any age. Like, it really could have at that point, right? Versus, necessary. It was a shift from caring about your parent, but anybody, just about every age range, except for the really young people, were really affected by this. And so then how do we, the challenge that we had was, how do we tastefully show up and target the right people to be found, and show them that actually we do have the volume, we do have the expertise, we will give you dignity. We have not even that. The other shift was, and we have the capability to do it so that everybody doesn't have to be in the room, right? So there was
safely,
There was a shift, if you'll recall, like only close family members were actually at the funeral home, and then you had, Zoom or whatever your web choice would end up being from there. and being able to shift there. Not only that, then after that's over, shift back, right? Like how much of that do we need? How much of it don't we? And then what was also interesting there is there's another unique thing for funeral homes is that they have typically been family-owned businesses. I remember talking to one gentleman, and he was like, I'm going to own this until my mother passes. Like, I will not have this conversation with her because they've built this business, but I don't want to do this. I don't.
Okay.
And so,
Wow.
but I want to be in a position though to be able to sell it down the road. And what was interesting is one of their main components was we're a family-owned business because it mattered. So taking that message and shifting it to who cares about it being family-owned and who doesn't? Like, what's that audience? What is attracting people to you? Who's your ideal client for somebody? Now the ideal client is somebody that wants to take over their business without being overtly saying take over my business. So
sure, yeah.
Really, as your business shifts and grows, and this is something I think that people don't think about, right? As your business shifts and grows, so will your need to explore the buyer persona. And when we're doing buyer personas, I like to have like an hour-long conversation where I'm sitting with my clients and I'm just asking them questions about, talk me through your ideal client. What do they like? What don't they like? What do they fear? Sometimes the questions seem repetitive, even to me. I was like, I just asked you that question, but sure enough, they'll have a different answer.
Different answer, yeah.
Right. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe this was a good question. Okay, let's continue. But then just having that conversation, right, gets us to, they're like, oh, yeah, that would be a great client. If I had 50 of those clients, I'd be good.
Yeah.
And so great. What makes them good? Where do we need to hang out? Where do they hang out? To your point, Jim, because I think it gives us insight into that question that's always asked, which platform do I need to be on? Well, where's your audience hanging out? Where are they? I would not advise doing a TikTok for funeral homes. I don't.
No.
Maybe you can be creative, but
I bet you if we looked it up, though, there'd be some.
I bet you'd find one, and I don't think it wouldn't be somebody dancing. I don't think, but yeah.
Exactly. In fact, I remember. Y'all remember? I remember one of our partners telling us, "Listen, this was a single woman.
Mm-hmm.
She had no prospect of ever being married." But she was addicted to the TikTok of a divorce lawyer because his content was just so good. Like he would talk about why you need a prenuptial agreement and things of this nature. And she was like, I listen to him every day.
Even though she'll never need him.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, not anytime soon. Not anytime soon, right?
A few other things have to happen first.
Yeah. But anyway, so, unexpected things can happen. But anyway, that's my story.
No, with your story, though, I'm just curious. Similar to Jim, I'm always curious, what moved the needle? Like, was there an aha moment? Like, once you nailed down the understanding of their target niche and who's their best target, and it sounds like that was a bit of a moving target. But once you nailed down a few, I guess, of the personas, was there any type of content that really was, aha, this works? Like, this is actually moving the needle that you discovered?
Yeah, it really moved more to the shift. And I don't know if this is true but from my research of the funeral homes that I dealt with, like they're really more about, you see the picture of the family, who they are, and I think that people do care about who they are, but at that time, that's not the most important thing.
Right.
The most important thing, when we shifted to a more empathetic, losing a loved one is really hard. We understand, it's financially challenging. Like, what do they fear? What do they care about? We have financing options.
Mm-hmm.
We have other choices that won't break you. Moving from that to, oh, we're the best, we've been 25 years in business and we're like, that's not, that was the shift, and being able to move from it. Like, which one are you going to trust more at that point? Right. And especially the one that aligns with where you are. And so maybe that shift, maybe they don't go to the people who are used to this specific family-owned business, but that's fine. They probably weren't searching for them anyway, unless they were at capacity and couldn't accommodate them. But if they were, having some of that, maybe that goes to the second page. By the way, we are family owned, and here's what we reside on the About Us. But it was really more that empathetic and offering alternatives to what those clients were going through at that time. That was stressful to everyone, right? Thinking the whole thing through. We have a touchless funeral, right? Like, that's important. We will give your family dignity, hugely important. You will have a memorandum forever that we're going to record for you, and you can share. People can join you live. Like, just those shifts, you saw that became a tick.
That makes sense.
Plus, you have multiple personas, so to speak. So you can lean into both of those or three of them, and hit the ones that are really family oriented. You can have a page or a paragraph or something about that too. So that way you're not turning your back on that, and you want to make sure you keep attracting that, but then flexing to know that these other things are important at this point, or for the area or for the client base or whatever is what's important. So
that's a great point. Yeah. It's never, I won't say never, but it's never like 100% just one persona. There's always multiple, and our job is to understand, you're going to target this one. Maybe 50% of your efforts are going to be on this one, but the other two are important too, at 25 and 25 kind of thing. And you still have to target them as well, just to get overall great results. When we're targeting personas, I'm not sure if the platforms make any difference.
Depends on what platform you mean. So if you mean like to build a website, I'm going to say no. But if you're talking about social media, I'm going to say absolutely.
Sure.
Right.
So where they're hanging out.
Yeah. So for instance, let's just get specific. I'll call it out. Okay. Let's see how we go. You're targeting boomers and older.
Facebook.
Right. Facebook. Yeah. And I want to say Facebook, and you may even consider doing some display ads on traditional
marketing
outlets, right? And
sure. Yeah.
You could do some display ads. Okay. You're targeting Gen Z.
Right. Instagram for sure. TikTok there, depending on the business.
Gen Z, exactly. That's exactly. What about, let's go back up. What about Gen X?
Right. The thing with Facebook is not everyone will admit it,
but everybody's
most people are on it.
Everybody's on it.
They won't admit it to their friends.
Yeah.
But so Facebook, it's hard to really define who their audiences are, because they really cater to everybody. It's a lot different than like a TikTok or Instagram or,
I would say Instagram
too. I would say Instagram too. Yeah.
Gen X. Their algorithms are good. They're so good. I swear, I'll go on to Instagram, literally either to post something or to check, because I know my friends just went on a fabulous vacation and I want to see about it. Right. And sure, next thing I know, I'm in somebody's checkout line, and I'm like, what have I done? No, I know what this is.
45 minutes later.
Get out. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good, and their immediate response too. Yeah, it doesn't take days for them to figure you out. They feed
right
you,
away.
Yeah, they feed you right away. Yeah.
And then, so then what about millennials? I think they're on. I think they're on all three. I think they're
all. Yeah, I would think so.
Probably Instagram, TikTok first, and then Facebook.
Probably, yeah.
But because
not as much Facebook. Yeah, my daughter's a millennial, so not as much Facebook.
You got to remember, They started to get off Facebook. They're not public about it, like Jim said.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They started to get, you got to remember, they were MySpace.
That's right. That's right.
So they've touched all of them.
Sure.
First, probably.
Yeah. They've grown with them. Yeah.
All of them first, and they're not afraid of them. So it's probably, if you want to target, probably you can find them anywhere. And we didn't say all of them. That's what Google makes sense to do any of them, because everybody's going to be there for your Google ads. If we're talking about ad building and things like that.
And N stands for nurturing. So this is about pretty much implementing consistent engagement strategy across what we just talked about, social media, but also email and other platforms, to continue to build, enhance relationships with your audience and to build loyalty. And so we all know personalized content is huge when it comes to that particular goal, and automated workflows also take you through that buyer's journey once you've done what we just talked about, define the actual targeted persona. And eventually, obviously, our goal with nurturing is to build loyalty and an understanding of your brand and so forth. So yeah, this is a big one. Once you're found, that's not enough. This nurturing component is critical, and we need to have it in our mind right from the get-go. It's beginning with the end in mind again. I don't know if any obvious stories come to mind when it comes to nurturing. I don't know, Kelly, you look like you're thinking about one in particular.
Nurturing, I think, is often forgotten. People like, give me a lead, give me a lead.
Definitely.
Right. So what you want to be really careful about is that you don't pay for the same lead over and over and over again. Right. So you get enough, you bring enough value where you've exchanged, even if they're not ready to buy today. And by the way, 92% of the people that engage with you are not ready to buy. So stop trying to push your sell on them, but you're trying to do a value exchange. So the goal is to get their email list where you've had permission to be in contact with them. Again, you don't want to buy email. But here's the thing that's powerful. And I heard this, and again, horrible I remember where I hear stuff from. So I'm just telling you this to say it's not mine, but it is good. So somebody was saying that, we all just came back from holiday, right? So you're coming back from a holiday and you've wound down and you're getting ready for your work week. What is the first thing you do to prepare for your work week? Check emails. Nobody goes in and
we all do.
Oh yeah, I've been gone. Let me go check social media. You don't.
No.
Right? You go to your emails. And so this is the power of emails. People do check their emails every single day. And so you have this idea where people also say, well, nobody's opening it. What's my open rate? What's my click-through rate? You're still seeing top of mind here, right? And so that being said, if you can nurture people correctly, and this is where it depends on what that subject line says. Quite honestly, right? If you're nurturing me, I see your name enough. But I remember this. Here's a good story. I remember this from my IBM days. So when I was at IBM, me and Lori Gerber we started class together. And we were the people that everybody hated. And I'll tell you why.
Why? I was going to say why.
Tell you why. Because during training, you're in training. We had like,
what class was this?
We had month-long training. It's just sales training. Like we're learning,
sales training.
We're learning how to be IBMers and sell the IBM stuff.
Okay.
So during training class, that would go from like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. She and I are both trying to get the non-existent award of best person in the class. It was never given out.
That's why I forgot you weren't competitive.
We're both, both trying to get it, right? And so sure enough, the teacher would ask a question and they're like, okay, we're getting ready to go. And sure enough, either Lori or I would be like, I have a question. And everybody's looking at us like we are ready to leave is what we are. But so
you're keeping me from happy hour.
Exactly. Anyway, fast forward, like she and I both vying for Rookie of the Year. And I hate to admit this, but she was always about a half a step ahead of me. She just was. She's a complete star, still is to this day, still a star. And so, but we're really, really good friends.
I was going to say, that was my next question. You still talking?
One way or the other for sure.
Yeah, we're really good friends. And so, because sometimes you just have to admit, well, let me learn from her. Shoot. So, but anyway, so we went through, she won Rookie of the Year. Like we both got 100% club, but she won Rookie of the Year. So this is how our whole career kind of went. But I remember one time she's going after this big client, and she was selling RS6000s for those geeks out there. It's a system that she sold. I sold AS400s, so I'm going to date myself. So anyway, so she's trying to sell RS6000 to this big Fortune 500 company because it's on her account list. And so she breaks through, because the cool thing about being with IBM, people will take your call,
That's
right?
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she breaks through. She meets somebody. They're like, yeah, we don't need anything right now. And so she's like, okay. Every Monday morning, Lori Gerber would send that person an email about something exciting going on with the RS6000 that was related to that company's business every single Monday. 12 months later, they were in need of a system, and they were like, oh yeah, who's that girl that keeps writing me every single week? Guess what?
Let's just wait till Monday.
Right. And they called her, and she got the big deal. Why? We didn't study the metrics of who opened the email or not, but every Monday, predictably, they had an email from Lori Gerber from IBM. Yeah. Right. She's not at IBM anymore, so don't try to find her. Yeah.
But she was top of mind. Yeah, absolutely.
Top of mind.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's nurturing.
Yeah.
That's nurturing.
That
The parents, the things that she put in added value. It was specific to them. And so that's what you have to think about. This whole idea to me of nurturing has to be about starting with, that's why I'm glad Personas actually preceded this. And I know they're not necessarily in order.
No, but it's a random order. Yeah.
Right. But they've already shown, like if you put somebody's first name in an email, they're more likely to open it. Yeah. Right. And now there are mechanisms that you can even put it within the email if you have the person's first name. And so you're just honing in and curate. If you're sending out an email, try to curate it, segment people out. Like if I met you through a networking event and you can remind me that, oh yeah, that's where I met John. That's going to be way more powerful. And if you know even better in that networking event that this group of people were very interested in this particular thing, or then, you just group them. Just know when you're going to places like, okay, what segment do I want to group these people in? And don't send out the same email to everybody every time.
Yeah, that's that point about personalizing. Absolutely. Much more effective. Yeah, that's a great story. Great story.
Yeah, I have a wine shop that I deal with, and she's got a great personality, and she greets you at the door. She chats you up, she listens, and all those kind of things. So when we built her website, a video of her was front and center. When she does social media, there's a video of her out on the patio in the wine shop. When she sends her emails, it's not the company name, it's her name at the company name. And so she stays on brand. I mean, she's laser focused. And she collects emails. She does a wine club. She does a lot of things to stay top of mind. And she's very engaged in the community. And I've said before, in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, it's a resort town. So her customers, probably more than 50% of her customers live 50, 60 miles away. But she stays top of mind. So the next time they come to Lake Geneva, they're going to stop in. And it's the same smile. It's the same greeting. It's the same, you know what I mean? And it's so that brand stays the same, and it's not clunky. It's not fake. It's completely legitimate. And the website is the same way. It's very friendly. It's not intense. It's all about, and the funny thing is too, when you read reviews, which are on the website, that's what comes up. The reviews are about how personable and how fun it is. And, and so, doing that, it builds the brand, it builds that authority, and she's loved by everybody around. And it's great. And it is that feeling when you go in that, you can relax and it's going to be cool. And the people that she hires, same way, she's real careful as far as their personalities and making sure that their customer service skills are there and all that kind of stuff. So that helps, through the website, through social media, through an email marketing campaign that she does. And she does that on her own. She does a fantastic job just staying top of mind, but continuing to show that brand and being so true and so consistent that it makes it easier. And we've all seen ones that aren't like that, where, brands, if they, and I talked about this during our last, but a home services company I have, they'll post and I'll post, and I try to stay as on brand as possible, using a logo and their tagline and different things. And sometimes they will, and sometimes they won't. And I'm like, oh my God, let's make sure that we follow like a template, so that way when people see that, they know who it is.
Right.
But like I said before, I'll be damned if they don't outperform me anyway. So, they're proving me wrong. But making sure that you still have that same persona as a company is just as important as targeting those personas that are your customers. If you're the same, if you have that same feeling or that same personality throughout all the different things you do, then it resonates with the clients, and they don't think you're coming across as false or salesy, like you were saying, Kelly. Some people aren't ready to buy yet, so don't try to sell me. You're going to turn me off, right? So in both cases, they stay true to brand, and that's what really helps them.
On that point, similar, I guess, was this client similar to Kelly's? Because it was a long sales cycle. She was just smart enough to keep nurturing for a long time, and eventually it clicked, and they needed a new system. With your client, Jim, what was the sales cycle? Like, is it a long sales cycle? Like, when does it usually click?
With home services, it's usually a 24/7 emergency call, right, where it's immediate. Or it's, you're having something done and something breaks and you need to replace it. Who do you think of? Right? It's not as immediate like, my basement's flooding, but it's immediate like, I don't have any heat or, or whatever. And so it does become kind of immediate, but, sometimes it's, well, you probably need to upgrade kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if you've been true to the company, true to the brand, that helps do that.
Staying top of mind. I think we see that a lot in lawyers, right? You don't need them till you need them. And so when you need them, like who are you going to go to? Is it going to be the one that you see on the bus? Billboards always fascinate me. They just fascinate me. I guess they must work because enough lawyers.
They still use them.
Enough lawyers do them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's, I guess, to build brand awareness. But the difference is when you can take that and exchange it, and now you have a one-to-one type of a connection. That's the gold. right? So even if I don't, so now when that person becomes a client, make sure you stay in touch with that person that's the client. Like don't have to go through. Lawyers probably spend, I don't even know what, I'm going to assume that they spend at least $2,000 to $3,000 to acquire a client, depending on what they're doing, right?
Easy, yeah.
And so from that, once you have them, God, please don't spend another $2,000 to acquire the same client. Make it easy for them to find you. Make it easy for them to refer to you. Make it easy and how do you do that? Continuing to nurture. Even after the transaction has lapsed.
I have I'm dealing with a situation right now, in fact, and the big lesson so far is with the nurturing process, and I think it weaves through both your stories. Is you can't give up. It takes time. Right. It takes time before it finally pays off. And in my case, and I'll tell you a little bit about the story in a second. In my case, it still hasn't paid off. We're still trying to figure this one out. And it's two doctors, two sisters. They worked together as part of the business, and they've produced this amazing course to cover pregnancy. But not just during the pregnancy, even afterwards, the postpartum, all the things that people go through during the pregnancy, and more importantly, all the questions they have. So the story I tell people, because I have 4 children, I wish I had a course like this. I mean, it has 120 videos built into it, little video clips that help describe things in a visual manner. Tons of information. So they put their heart and soul into this, and I really want this to be successful for them because they're great people. But also the course is amazing. I had my wife and I, we had this little book called "What to Expect When You're Expecting," and we were in that thing. It has so many it's dog-eared with the amount of use it got because we were clueless. We didn't know. And by the 4th kid, we knew a few things, but with the first one though, good luck. We were in that book and we tagged every page. We started off with Facebook. Once we nailed down the targeting, so we went through the whole process of figuring out the personas and who we would target. Interestingly enough, it was pretty obvious we were going to target women, but we also targeted men. Like there are a lot of men in the process. But I'll tell you a funny story about what happened with the men targeting later. Anyway, and we focused on Facebook to start. And the posts were great. Like there's a lot of time and thought put into the posts, both the visual side of it and the content. And we were getting leads. So and the interesting thing was it was leads, and then we put them through a nurturing process where there were 8 not just 1 or 2, 8 follow-up emails, and every one of those emails had nice intro, nice visuals, a nice introduction, and even had a nice tip some tip that was value add with respect to the pregnancy. And it had a nice call to action as well. So well-built emails, all 8 of them, figuring that by the 8th one, it would click, like somebody would want to buy the course. And the course was priced at $350. But even after months of this effort, and about, we were averaging about 65 good targeted leads a month, nobody's buying. we hadn't converted any one of them, and to date, by the way, we still haven't converted any one of them.
Yes. Hey, John, I got some questions.
Yeah. Please, yeah.
We've never talked. I mean, we've talked about it ancillarily, but there's a couple of things I want to ask you. So, what platform were you using for your email follow-up email outreach?
Squarespace was the landing page, and the platform was MailChimp. Okay,
so in MailChimp, were you able, or did you do, I don't know who ran it, but if you
one of the doctors, believe it or not, because they're at that age group where a lot younger than me, so they grew up with MailChimp, and so for them it was easy for them to run the 8 emails. They had another supplier, not me, put together.
It's good.
Put together the actual words and so forth. But me being at the front end, I took the time to, even though I'm not getting paid for this, but I want to see them win and succeed. So I actually read every single one of these emails and told them they were great. They're well built.
Okay.
I said, yeah.
I don't doubt that they were. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you know if they have captured from that list how many people actually click, like how many and who clicked on what? Let me tell you why I'm getting to this, because there might still be opportunity. We may be able to Lori Gerber the thing.
Yeah. So yeah. I got to get to know this, Lori.
Yeah.
So if you could segment for them, right, and you could say, okay, this group of people, I know because I deal with Constant Contact, but they're pretty similar. But so in Constant Contact, what I know you can do is actually you can do this when you're linking, which most people don't even know this. But when you're when you set up a click button, you can create a new link. I mean, you can create a new segment. Anybody so like you said, they have a whole bunch of different things that they offer. What probably happened is you did different content depending on what they clicked. Now you theoretically know what their likes or interests are. So someone who maybe clicked on what to do when they're expecting, they're going to be in a different stage of somebody who maybe clicked on the nursing video there. And so then from that, maybe the course isn't the right thing, but could they do some affiliate marketing, right? So I have this group of people who are in the process of nursing. People that are nursing are probably going to want to, at some point, transition to food, solid food, right? Here are our recommendations for solid food linked to Amazon. Get some affiliate marketing dollars linked to, or if they're saying, hold the baby like this and there's some apparatus. I'm just assuming and making this up, but I'm just saying.
At this point, we're still,
avenue for you.
I don't even know what they're clicking on in terms of when they're perusing the course because we give them access to it.
That's what you need. So at least if you could segment it out to who clicked on what, now you have a new starting point to be more personable, to target these people. So I'm not saying take it over from the other people, but take it over from them. I mean,
at least give some suggestions.
Advice.
And like I said, they're so nice that they'll listen to any possible suggestion. And I mean, at this point, the posts that we're doing, I think they're good. Like I said, they're generating leads, but I don't think they're effective in like the nurturing section, and it doesn't seem to be resonating. So we're actually shifting to video. Yeah. We think video is going to actually work. So we're going to try video both on the front end in terms of generating leads in Facebook, but also with the 8 posts. The nurturing end as well, and they're willing to do it. They're great in front of the camera. Their passion comes out, which is fantastic, and they're not shy at all. Like they'll do all 8 of them. So that's the next step. But to your point, our targeting has to be more precise. So we have to dive in there and really understand what are they clicking on, and draw some conclusions.
If you got leads, you then hope you did a value exchange, right? So that's what I was saying.
But I guess the point I want to leave everybody with, and all our listeners, is you can't give up. It takes time. It takes time to really understand what's working and what's not working. You have to do a lot of A/B testing too, and test your theories and hypotheses and so forth, and then keep adjusting, keep evaluating, and eventually something's going to click. Because like I said, they are interested. We're even trying something that they suggested, which was smart, a more of a subscription model. In other words, instead of having to buy the entire course, I mean, we've already given a discount, by the way. So we gave a discount of $100 to $250. So because we thought maybe price is the issue. And it might still be price in the end. We don't know, but we will be trying some other tactics like subscription now. In other words, access to the course for a month, like unlimited access as opposed to buying it for the entire year. And if you want to renew, whatever, you re-up it and so forth. So you don't feel like you're making that massive expenditure upfront. And perhaps for some people, that's too much of an expenditure because they think they can find all their pregnancy questions answered on Google for that matter. Or,
it's interesting that you say that. Sorry to interrupt, but
no problem.
I was thinking about, this time I know who I'm quoting. Joyce Myers. She's I don't know if you know her, but she's a really popular Christian minister. Okay. But I remember watching her one day, and she was actually giving away a free seminar. I can't remember. I think it was on finances and how to be free financially. And I think that's what it was. That part we need to go verify, Jim. But what she said and stuck with me is, what you want for free costs somebody something, right? And so it's important. But what I was thinking about as you were talking, sometimes people do want things for free to learn a little more. So wonder if, again, for them, what happens when people are selling education is having a webinar is a good lead-in strategy too. And then from there, maybe kind of going from there. But before you completely give it away.
Yeah, give them a taste. Yeah, we do. I mean, they even did a baby show. They had a baby show. Nice. They got so live in person. They got a bunch of leads from that too.
I think affiliate marketing could work for them.
Yeah, like we'll have to talk offline on that on that strategy for sure. For sure. I think there's a bunch of angles here, but and the good news is that they're not giving up either. I mean, they've put a lot of heart and soul into this course, and it even has like specialists like chiropractors are used in the course. Experts on the pelvic floor, experts in lactation, etc. It's like if you think of it, it's in there basically in terms of women's needs during the entire course of pregnancy, and especially dietary needs. Even the one that comes up most often is skin. Skin needs are like one of the number one questions. What you do to take care of your skin, because
it all changes. Your skin and your hair changes during pregnancy.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the funny thing I was going to tell you guys about was I didn't expect this, but I guess it is what it is. So the Facebook posts that we were making, so we had a bunch of them with men and the mother and father walking with their children in the posts. So the visuals. All the posts that had visuals with men in them, like didn't do a thing. Like basically,
really?
Not a thing. Yeah, to the point where we said, why bother? Like they're not even getting any clicks or anything. It was the ones that had the woman up close with one of their other children, for example, or the big belly. That's probably one of the best ones. In fact, that did the best. But the ones with guys just weren't clicking. So don't know why.
Who needs them?
Right? They're like, oh God, here comes a big. I think this is a good segue into, and we kind of started into D.
So let's move on into D, and this is all about data-driven strategy. And trust me, I've started to look at the data very closely, and I mean, obviously, I made a decision on data when I saw none of the men photos were being clicked on. So that was data, and I had to obviously react to it, and they were fine too with us. Have we stopped them completely? We pretty much have stopped them completely. Now all the photography is women and children based photography, and it seems to still be working quite well in terms of generating leads. We'll see how it works out now with video when we shift. But basically, you have to have KPIs right from the outset. Understand in advance what it is we're targeting in terms of how do we define success. So your KPIs, things like traffic, things like degree of engagement, your conversion rates are critical with data. But I guess the bottom line with data is you need a consistent process as well. Data, yeah, it's an interesting one because everybody wants to get to the slick creative stuff sometimes, and it's at the expense of data because for a lot of people it's just boring. But without it, your conclusions are going to be all over the map. And so, let's talk about some stories around there that we may have had with where data has saved us, where data has also, maybe perhaps led us down funny paths if we don't interpret it properly.
The first thing that comes to mind for me is as you meet with them for the first time, and if you're able to get into the Google Analytics, and I do this with every prospect, is you look to see what percentage of their search is branded versus non-branded. And that can get squirrely because if you have a generic brand name, sometimes it's hard to really determine whether it's truly the brand or whatever. So one of the most recent prospects that I had was a weight loss, a med spa place. When we looked at, we're just looking at the website and we started talking about audience, and we started talking about, how many people are looking at the website and who are they and those kind of things. And when we looked and it was like 88% branded, that's great that people that know your name actually go on your website and they know where to find you.
Right. So they're typing in, yeah, exactly. They're typing in just the name because they know you.
So,
okay.
Right. And you can tell too when it's direct versus search, organic search. So if it's direct, they know who you are. They're typing something. They could misspell it. They can do whatever, but at least they know your company name, so they'll find you. And that's wonderful that you have an audience. But if that's most of your search, your available market, so to speak, is very, very small traditionally. And so when I explained that, I said, we need people to be searching for the products or services you provide kind of generically. And when they do that, where do you come up? Are you on the first page? Do you show up? Whatever. And
you were talking to a specific client for this one?
It was the med spa weight loss type
okay,
client.
Okay. Yeah.
And so it's like, and the easiest thing to do is just go to products or services. You click the down and you say, okay, Botox or whatever. And then you type that in near me and see what comes up. And if you don't show up, you're not being found. And these are the people that are being found, right? So you show them and they're like, yeah, they're a competitor. Yeah, they're a competitor. That helps people understand, because we've talked about being found, that helps people understand. That's kind of the very beginning of, you have a beautiful website, it's nice, but you're not being found, right? Because they're only finding you for your brand name. And so that helps build that case for, you need to add more content, you need to do the other things that help build that search engine optimization that we've talked about, that helps bring that up. And so we're just in the beginning stages, but we've already talked about that. And now it's okay. We need to make sure that we're searching. Either you need to change how you talk about the products or services on your website, or we need to use those exact keywords in your content so that when people are searching generically for the product or service, whichever one it is, they'll find you.
That's right.
Right. And so that's not always easy for, a business owner that doesn't understand digital marketing to understand.
Right.
So that's kind of an easy way to kind of explain it, and saying, for the services, you say you've got these, in this case, it's probably 25 or 30 different services. You're just not being found. So you don't have a chance to sell people that don't know who you are.
Yep.
And then they understand, okay, I got some work to do. Right. And whether in a lot of cases, if they're just starting out, this one is, this business is less than a year old, money's not exactly rolling in yet. And it's one of those things where, okay, well, you can go on and you can add some content and just add more information about that particular product or service. And, and if you need help, great, I'm here to help. So that's kind of where we're at now, where I'm kind of an advisor. But I mean, in the long run, hopefully we'll be able to help out.
I'm curious, Jim, do they, I know a lot of clients, they just want to hear about the end result. They don't really want to understand a lot of how you're getting to your conclusions by looking at a whole bunch of data. Are they open to it? Do they open to listening to a little bit about how you arrived at your conclusions on what you're going to do next because of the data? Did they
I
care?
think in the case that I just gave, where you're talking about branded versus non-branded, that's pretty easy to understand. Once you start getting into more details and digging into the next layer or so, then it's harder. It's harder to explain, and it's also harder to be able to explain how it's going to change necessarily. In this case, I think it's like 75-80% women. And it's an age group of 30 to 50 or 60, depending on the product or the service. And so, if you're not targeting those personas, and you can see that with Google Analytics, you can see based on the IP address that just came to the website, everybody that comes, they don't know your name, but they know basically where you are and basically what your age group and your, whether you're male or female or whatever. So they're able to do that and extrapolate that out. So you can provide that information. And if you're not attracting that audience that you want, then you need to make changes.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're willing to listen to, at least the high level conclusions you're drawing from the data. Yeah. Yep. I find a lot of my clients, they don't really want to get too deep into the sausage making.
Right.
So how many leads did you generate for me this month? This month? Yep. Am I on page 1 or am I on page 5?
Yep. Right.
Okay. Let's move on to, what are you going to do?
I actually have a more mature med spa that it's all about how many appointments did I get?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, ultimately, I don't care what you do from start to finish, as you said, making the sausage.
Yeah.
How many appointments did I get? Was it profitable? Was it my target audience?
Right.
Enough said.
Yeah.
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 How about you, Kelly? What's your experience been like with data? I mean, we know we need to use it for ourselves. Otherwise, we don't know where we're going. But what's it like with clients?
Yeah, no, it's an important point. Exactly where I was going. Like we live in the data because the data is really what tells the story of what we need to do next. So we have to be data geeks. For me, it depends on what we're talking about. One of the things I love to use data for is to understand customers' experiences on the page. Right. And I'll tell you what I mean. So before we put a website up, we will use software to, again, we talk about you make this beautiful website and that's great. But we will use software to help us to see visually what's going on the website. So for instance, we always talk about above the fold, right? And so ideally above the fold, you want people to...
Above the fold, just for our audience, meaning...
It's basically the first thing they see without them having to scroll up or down.
Up or down. Perfect.
Well, down because how...
And that's different on mobile, versus desktop.
It still should be that you should consider both because it's still...
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So and a tablet's a little different.
If I have to... So it should be optimized for all. But as I look at that, what I want to do is to say, so I'm reminded of, you all know, we have partnered with Marty Grief, and Marty Grief wrote a book called True Connections, Relationship and Marketing to the Digital World. And so in his book, Marty talks about when you go to the first page of a website, it's 3 things that you want to know. You want to know, number 1, am I in the right place? That has nothing to do with what we're talking about here. How do I feel about it? Does. And so I'll talk about that a little more. And also, what do I do next? So
those are the 3 key questions.
Yeah.
Right. And so what I do is, no matter how beautiful I think the website is, I'll do this analysis of it. And what the analysis showed me, looking at the data, there's probably 2, maybe 3 things where I want the human eye to go. And that's to the call to action, right? So from Marty's book, am I in the right place? That has more to do with upstream messaging. So I don't care necessarily about that right here for this. But what I do care is, how do I feel about it and what to do next specifically. So I take the screenshot and I do an analysis of, where does the human eye go? And so I'll take my call to action up in the top right-hand corner, which should be my telephone number, and unless the client doesn't want to divulge that. And I look at the call to action. Now, what the beauty of this is, this data tells me like where the human eye goes first. Like, it'll show me a heat map, and then it'll show like 100% of the time people are going to this, or it won't be 100, but like 50% of the time people are going here and another percentage here. And if the first 2 things people aren't seeing is what I want them to do next, I have made a mistake. And so even if it's, I need to change the color, I need to make it bigger. What do I need to do to get, what's that?
Oh, hold on.
Just give us an example. Give us an example what you're talking about.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, interrupt me. That's fine. Okay. So what I typically would want them to do next would be call me, schedule an appointment. And also, here's a cheat on this, is if you say, call me, and underneath that, so I remember having a client, actually it was a lawyer recently, and we had the conversation of, what do you want them to do, right? I want them, so the call to actions for that lawyer was, I either want them to call our office or I want them to fill out a form. And so, great. So underneath it is like, it says, learn more, right?
Okay.
We want them to learn more because they haven't quite get there. But underneath that, we say something like, trusted by hundreds of clients. If you put a trust statement right up underneath that, you can increase the likelihood of them clicking that. And so then that's my theory, right? So that's all theory until, one, we use that before we put it up, but then afterwards, the next thing that I like to do is to install Hotjar on the pages of the website. So what Hotjar is a piece of software you can have your team to do for you. But in this instance, we always do it. And with Hotjar, we use 2 now, and I'll tell you the other one is really good. I might like it a little more than Hotjar. But Hotjar will tell you what is happening when people are visiting your website. Now, if you do this, you need to have privacy. Make sure you're telling people that you're watching basically what they're doing when they're on your website. It won't record any important information, but you're just trying to, because marketing, what you're trying to learn is not about one-to-one, one person came and one person did this. But for data, you want to look at the aggregate.
Yeah,
what did the aggregate of people do when they came to your website? And if the aggregate stopped at the fold and left, then we got to start all over, right? The data is telling us that we have to do something different. So for this particular client, though, we're getting form fills for her. And again, I really do. I attributed a lot to those trust statements that we have underneath the call to actions. The other tool that I like a lot that is free to you is Clarity. So what Clarity does, it'll even tell you, this is cool because this is, again, the data telling us something that we didn't even realize. One thing that we had a client, and it notified us, hey, you're getting frustration clicks. And I was like, what's a frustration click? That, as I never heard, but it's basically a client thinks that something that you put on the website should be clickable, and should take you to another page. And they're trying to click. And it's so funny because you can hear the clicks when they play it back to you. And it's like click, 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 abandon. You're like, oh, let's
because they think it should be.
Right.
Yeah, I guess in today's day and age, everybody thinks anything on a website is clickable.
It's clickable. So if you're going, it's really important. Is where that's important is if you're trying, and we try to avoid this. If we're changing the font on a page, it's typically click to a link. So meaning the color of the font. So all of a sudden I'm blue, and then all of a sudden I change to green, or it's probably I'm black and I change to blue.
Right.
Most people think that blue text is linkable.
Right.
And if you're just doing it for emphasis, you're going to get frustrated.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially if it says click here or click to do something. So you click on it.
Yeah. 100%. So anyway, so that data is amazing. And that, if you can have that visual data, it excites people so much. So when I take clients through that and able to see, because I think a lot of times what we do I know many of my clients become theoretical, like it's what I think. And it is like, we have this gut feeling that we should do this, that, or the other. But when I'm able to say, hey, let me just take you through what we're seeing. And this, either one of those, Hotjar or Clarity, will actually even tell you what percentage of the page people scroll down to. Like most people do not scroll all the way down to the bottom. They don't.
I know.
And so, but if you're finding that a lot of people are stopping at 70%, like they scrolled all the way down, they got to 70% of the content. And let's just say your call to action was at 71. We use that data then to pull it up to 65.
That's
right. So now more people can have something to do rather than leave. So that's, we try to use the data, not just, definitely the KPIs that you already mentioned, but there's so many possibilities.
Oh, there's tons of data.
Use data to move that needle and to say, okay, what am I learning here? And like, we didn't talk about this, but I'm curious, John, for you, have you ever noticed, like when you're putting up social content, do you ever use if you're doing organic, do you use that to like inform any ad content that you might use based on your measurements that you've maybe seen from the organic posts?
Oh, for sure. It was funny. I used it clearly. I made an adjustment after seeing the data of the men not doing very well, and so therefore all future ads excluded them. But all the time, you have to look at the data on what you're posting, and then it informs your future ads next round every single time. And so data is huge for me too. I try. There's certain types of data that I do share with clients, but most of the time I use it to just inform me so I can tell them why I'm about to do the next step. But a big one for me is on, believe it or not, it's before I even have the client yet. The competitive analysis data excites clients. When clients see you take the time up front before the client's even my client, to go through like one or two or three of their competitors, and you pick out some really cool aha moments that they didn't even know about their competitor, and how I might even have an idea on how I might tackle that in terms of making them look better than their client. Then you have all ears. They're listening to you at that point. And data is one of the biggest things you can use to, win new business, as opposed to the amount you're going to use after you get the business.
When the most, again, competitive, lawyers love it. Lawyers want, if you, like, I remember having lawyers that I was talking to, right? And so to me, it helps for you to get a guide on how much should I be spending on ads, right? And so, well, it'll tell you two things. So I remember, and I know each of you, we all have lawyer clients, but I remember having a lawyer who was like, they wanted to advertise for personal injury. right? So they're newer. They've been in business now for 4 to 5 years. It's still newer from a lawyer perspective. And so they're like, okay, I'm ready to, I want to pay for ads. And it's like, okay, great. We start doing keyword research. And so then we come back and we say, okay, in order for you to be competitive here, because you can show up, you can be competitive, or you can dominate, right? Depending on how aggressive you want to be, we can help you.
Right. And how big your budget is. Yeah.
That's 100% right. And so then when you start to say, listen, to be competitive, and especially when you say, this is where your competitor is, and showing them like this competitor is spending this amount of money, and that number is like $20,000.
Yeah.
This competitor is spending this amount of money, $15,000. Now, all of a sudden you have a budget, and I'm not saying that it's not a good budget for you, but if you want to compete with them at 2,000, we're going to have to trim down the number of words we're going to go after, change the long tail keywords, and.
Yeah,
all of
that's when it gets real. Yeah.
Yeah. All the ands don't matter. Or do you want to play the long game? Because what we learned the other day, right, is pay to play might not be the long game. And can you imagine how much more? Because SEO in general is less expensive than paid ads, right? I mean, they're not free.
Sure.
But the reason people don't want to do it because they're also not cheap, and it's a long game.
It's a long game.
So you're not going to see results overnight, but you would in paid ads. And that's why I really like to do both.
Yes.
Right. Because at some point, if you need ads today, let's do that. But over time, let's wane that. Let's continue to look at what's working, what's not working. Let's put content. Let's use the data to make these adjustments so that at some point you're only using SEO, and let them continue to pay $10,000.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Right? I mean, lawyers have to keep their people working, right? All the other lawyers on their staff working. So a lot of them do pay-per-click up front, but they also play the long game and add SEO to it. So you're doing both until SEO becomes so good that you can taper off maybe. But I have a good friend of mine who's an immigration lawyer, and he's never changed. He's always done about 20,000 on the pay-per-click side and per month, and still has a lot of presence on the SEO side as well. And he's not giving up either because he has a decent amount of staff and he needs to keep them working. And that wraps up another episode. My name is John.
This is Jim.
And I'm Kelly. Thanks for joining. Hey, don't forget to subscribe.
Thank you for tuning in to Why Your Business is Invisible Online. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do us a favor and subscribe and follow us on Spotify and Apple. Be sure to share it with other business owners who might find it helpful. If you want to dig deeper, contact us at ruinvisibleonline.com. That's capital letter R, capital letter U, followed by invisibleonline.com. Or message us on our LinkedIn business profile with the same title, Are You Invisible Online? The information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and may or may not reflect the official policy or position of WSI Corporate. Always consult a qualified digital marketing expert before making significant changes to your online strategy. Until next time, keep connecting with the people who matter most to your business and join us for our next episode.